Hi, I'm back again for another update. It's been a while. I've been caught up in academics and in my work, so doing this video blog post just kept getting pushed back week after week. Finally, now that classes are settling down, I'm able to pick this back up again. I hope to give one more update after this one before I go to Alaska. For now, let me go ahead and talk about my testimony as it relates to why I'm pursuing ministry and how the Lord just kind of worked on me over the years. So when I was in about 8th grade, I started to enroll in these competitions every year, statewide competitions in fine arts, in Bible, and preaching. And one of my friends looked at some of the competitions that were listed. And he said to me, "Hey, you should go ahead and try the preaching." I thought, sure, why not? I'll go ahead and give it a go. I like to publicly speak anyway. So I enrolled in it, and I talked to my pastor at that time, and he was excited because he had a young man who was desiring to learn how to preach God's Word. And so week after week, he coached me and helped me create an outline and learn how to speak well and effectively for God and for God's Word. And finally, a Sunday before the competition, he had me preach my sermon, my finished sermon, in front of the entire congregation. And I did so, and I did so at the competition as well. And he kept praying constantly that God would start to prepare me for going into the ministry. Now, of course, I had my flesh tugging at me, telling me I have better things to do. I had friends, both at school and in other places, who were pursuing the military, and I wanted to do so as well. So I continued to pursue the military, specifically in aviation, until the Lord finally got a hold of me at camp, and I started to think, maybe I need to stop living for myself and start pursuing the ministry. Since this is something that God keeps bringing into my mind, I want to go ahead and pursue this avenue. And so I started to do so. I started to pray to the Lord to call me to the ministry if that is really what He desires. And I started to get this burden and this desire to preach God's Word and to minister to God's people. And so that built up over time. And now it's as though I can't really imagine myself doing anything else. I went to Bob Jones University and started my degree in missions. And so that is how the Lord kind of started to thrust me towards the ministry, taking me away from the military. It's through the simple prayers of a pastor. And I can't thank him enough for being willing to pray so fervently for me. So I'm going to go ahead and give you an update now concerning the internship as far as the finances are concerned. So I have 117 right now. Now, the question is, where did that money come from? It came largely from my supporting churches. My supporting churches have given almost 3/4 of that amount. Now, that little red sliver that you see is my personal work earnings. I was giving money from my personal earnings towards the internship. It was also neat to see that the smallest church was actually the church that gave the most in the shortest, in just one day. So how long did all of this take? It took a little bit of time. That big spike between February and March was when my church in Michigan finished raising funds for me. They were raising the money for about 1 or 2 months. And finally, at the end of February, they gave the amount to me, and it was a huge chunk of money that pretty much pushed me above the 100% mark. So now I have the breakdown of the expenses. The first section is the requirement that Baptist Mid-Missions gave to me to raise. And the second part of the column is the airline ticket. I did the best I could to find the cheapest flight possible with the best value. And so I'll give you more details about the itinerary later on. And there's also this section for the brake repair. I had to get my brakes replaced, pretty much the entire system replaced. and it cost quite a bit to fix. I asked my church in Michigan if I could use some of the funds they gave to me to fix it. They said yes. Besides, I need a car if I'm going to get to my internship anyway, so it does count as emissions expenses. Because I need a car to get up to Iowa, where I'm going to be dropped off at Minneapolis to fly out to Anchorage. It was the cheapest way to fly out to Anchorage from Minneapolis. And I also have a small sliver, not noticeable on the screen. It's for my insurance. I have temporary medical insurance. It's all paid for. It's so small of an amount that I don't have it shown on the screen. But that's also an amount. The last amount is for my miscellaneous expenses. That's pretty much the money that's been set aside, been given, that I haven't yet put towards certain parts of the internship. Those expenses will be used up as I make preparations to get supplies before I go to Alaska, and also eating in places like Anchorage, where the prices are usually about 15 to 20% higher. And also being able to get anything that I might need while I'm on the field. I appreciate your gracious giving again. It just reminds me of what Hudson Taylor once said. He said, "God's work done in God's way will not lack God's supply." I remember trying to pursue Alaska 2 years ago. It was actually with the same missionaries. And they told me that I was just a little bit on the young side to really do an internship with them. So I waited for 2 years, and then I thought, well, I'm going to run into a whole bunch of roadblocks that kind of blocked me from doing the internship a couple years ago. Well, the Lord showed me otherwise. The Lord has paved my way to Alaska, and it's amazing to have so many gracious and loving supporters part of that process. So again, I thank you for your support. I would appreciate prayer, however. Prayer is needed as the missionaries are still trying to make preparation for the aircraft hangar project. They're still needing the permit to build the aircraft hangar. So please be in prayer about that, and also for the funding for the aircraft hangar. They're still looking for the funds. We have faith that the Lord will provide in some way. But those are the two big prayer requests that Pastor Clark, my missionary, has told me about. And pray for me specifically as well as I continue to make preparations physically, yes, but also spiritually. As the semester's winding down, I need to spiritually prepare myself as well, keep preparing for the days ahead. So that concludes the update that I have for the month of April. I look forward to giving the next update in May.